Hi there, I'm Linden Thorp. Welcome. This is Lodestone Q&A. We're here every Friday. We nearly weren't here today because we got the links all strange. StreamYard is very strange today, so anything could happen. But anyway, I see Ebby Sheila's here now. We're just waiting for Muhiba I've sent her the link again, so she'll show up, I'm sure. Okay, welcome. Today we've got an interesting topic, and it stems from last week when we were talking about cultural adaptability. Well, we started to talk about that, and we want to continue with it today. So, as usual, I'm going to introduce the topic with a voiceless video. And this is really designed to encourage anyone to participate in this live, whatever. I want to include everybody. So if you're unfortunate enough to be ADHD or hearing impaired, well, you can't hear me now, but you'll be able to see my video, and you can probably see captions as well. So let's have a look at the video and set the scene. It will give you a little time to reflect as well on this topic, and we'll be really keen to hear from you. I'm sure there are many people among LinkedIn members and YouTubers who are in different cultures and are feeling not adaptable or something like that. So please let us know. We can see all the comments here on the screen, so please type away in the box under this live window. Okay, let me share my screen with you, and let's have this voiceless video. For over 200 years, Japan was closed to the world. From 1635 to 1853, the country lived in near total isolation under the Sakoku Edict. No foreigners could enter and no Japanese could leave. A silence imposed on an entire nation. The Tokugawa shogunate feared outside influence especially Western religion and colonization. They saw words, foreign ideas, foreign voices as a threat. To protect their way of life, they silenced. Japan became an island, not just in geography, but in thought, a place where silence became survival. Centuries later, when the millionaire midwife arrived in Japan, she felt this silence everywhere, not just in history, but in daily life. The careful avoidance of eye contact, the hesitation before speaking, the way students held their breath when asked to express their own thoughts. She had never encountered anything like it. Then she understood. This was not just cultural, it was generational. The souls of this nation had never been fully born. Their voices had been conditioned out of them, not just for decades, but for centuries. And it had shaped everything: business, education, even self-worth. But she also knew once broken, it cannot be restored. The moment someone dares to lift their eyes, to take their first breath of freedom, everything changes. This is the heart of the silence breakers. This is not just history. This is not just a story. This is your moment to lift your gaze, to step beyond silence, to finally claim the voice that was always meant to be yours. The door is open. Are you ready to walk through? What entire nation has been silent for centuries, when words are not just forgotten, but feared. This is the story of the silence breakers, a journey of awakening, transformation, and the courage to lift your gaze. But what does this story teach us about ourselves? In episode 1, we learnt that silence is not just a lack of words, it's a conditioned response. For 218 years, Japan lived in isolation under the Sakoku policy. No outsiders, no exchange of ideas, no voices beyond what was allowed. And that silence did not end with borders reopening. It remained in the culture, in education, in the unspoken rules of society. And even today, many people live with rules, fears never spoken. We are taught to keep our heads down, to avoid risks, to wait for permission to act. But here's the truth. The silence that was given to you is not yours to keep. In episode 2, the silence was broken, not by force, but by acknowledgement. When Yuki lifted her gaze, she made a choice to see, to be seen, to recognize that something had already changed and that she was now part of it. This is the same moment that in every transformation. You see a new possibility, a new career, a new way, a life. Because once you lift your gaze, do you pretend you saw nothing? Or do you step into who you were meant to be? In episode 3, we reach the moment of no return, the first word spoken, a single whisper, a question. Why? And in that moment, the silence was no longer a rule, it was a choice. How many times have you held back from speaking, from asking for what you really want, from sharing your voice, your message, your truth, because you were afraid of what might happen next? But here's the secret. The fear of speaking is never as powerful as the regret of staying silent. And once you say the first word, once you take the first step, there is no turning back. This is the exact journey of the millionaire midwife. Junko's moment of transformation was not when she learned something new. It was when she decided to act, to trust herself, to take the leap, to stay on the silence she had always known. And this is where your story begins too, because silence has already been broken. You've already seen the truth. The only question is, what will you do next? The door is open. The moment has arrived. Are you ready to step through? So, just give me one moment. Hi there. Oh, there. Oh, there you are, Muiba. Sorry about this. I don't know what's happening to StreamYard. It's doing very strange things. I've no idea what happened to the link. So anyway, so sorry. I'm glad you made it. So glad. Super. Okay. Let me, without further ado, bring my lovely guests on stage. Oh, no, let's be equal, not anything less. Okay. Here's Ebi Sheila, and here's Muiba. Hi. Oh, so sorry. Not when you hope it will, but anyway, we're all here now, so that's great. Thank you for coming so much, and everybody watching. I don't know how much of my voiceless video you saw, Muiba. I think Ebishila maybe saw it all. Any comments, Ebishila? Did you?
Oh, it was very interesting to see the opposite of what we have. It's just an extreme where it's exactly the same results. Unfortunately, it's a very I think it's a very complex conversation, I find, especially with what you're going through. So they have the breaking the silence. And I guess we also have breaking the silence. So there's still a silence caused by cultural adaptability. From what you said in the video, I'll talk about the video before I talk about I guess you'll ask us questions. So you talked about, so you used the case study of Japan and how they didn't allow entry, and we're the opposite, where we allowed entry. And because of the fear of outside influence, and we didn't fear the outside influence, which can be dangerous and is dangerous, I think. And then again, I was really intrigued about where you talked about the generational versus cultural. And I think as human beings generally, it is very difficult to adapt to another culture because we have a strong belief that our culture is the right way. And I guess that's the challenge we have here, because cultures coming in feel their culture is the right way. So, and because we are tribal, so we're not listening to our bodies, I guess. I guess because in our heads, we're all in our heads, because we're very tribal, we tend to stick to our own. So what you find is, what I find, my observation is, we're not adapting. Very few to adapt. It has to be a choice. And I guess because I never belonged to any culture, my parents were of a culture, but I didn't really belong to that culture in my head, because my first few years were not in that culture, and I didn't live there. And so when I went back to that culture, I always struggled. And then when I came back here, I also struggled, because my culture was, well, I didn't have a culture.
Right. Yes. So you are
I
acultural.
think it's a very difficult topic, because you've gone, that the video has shown us like the closed culture of where the entry wasn't not allowed and people weren't allowed to speak. We've got an open culture, but people are still not allowed to speak about their feelings. So the results is the same. And I think, and I guess hopefully you'll go to it with the questioning. I think the result is on the individual, understanding the culture within, which is a human culture and not a tribal culture. The culture within, and expressing that as a whole. But it's for individuals to do that, or maybe the collective to come to agreements that the individual, we need to work as individuals and then come to a collective, as opposed to being tribal. My culture is correct, so I have to impose my culture on everybody else.
Good points. So great points. Lovely. And I should preface whatever I say now with the fact that a lot of my experience here in Japan is now coming out in a book, and it's a big book. It's taken me a long time to write, and that's what the videos were based on. And and it's really strange. I was thinking so much of you when I use these videos because of the Worthy Woman philosophy and manifesto, because here in Japan, women have no voice whatsoever, mostly none. They don't test. Well, they're beginning to now, but on the whole,
Can I just say, Linden, it's really only in the Western cultures that women are trying to have a voice, or countries that embrace the Western culture. And I think in most cultures, it's not unusual that women don't really have much of a voice.
Absolutely. I agree. And the thing is that here in Japan, during my 20 years here, I really worked to bring women out. And so that's what the book is really all about. Junko, who is the heroine, is a completely non-person, no personality, it would seem. And so my role became the role of a midwife, because I was really birthing those souls of those kids, not just women, but guys as well, because they'd never, ever expressed their feelings, and they'd never made anything public apart from within the family, and the family is a very closed thing here, really, in Japan. So it was the most extraordinary experience for me to see these young women actually starting to open like beautiful flowers, like beautiful blossoms. And their personalities were beginning to emerge so beautifully. So that's really where I'm coming from when I talk about this. And I think now it's really fair to say that East and West are getting here more and more now in Japan. More and more acceptance of women as independent people. Everything's changing, but it's slow. So change is always slow here. It's a very, very slow culture. Yes. Yeah. They'd never do anything until they're absolutely sure of it. You have 3 million questions.
You guessed it right. Right. On the spot. Right. As we say in French, the dot on the I. Absolutely true. Because I come from a culture which is the Muslim Arab culture, considered today, that it is backward, there's barbarity, God knows what, because the world likes to choose one people and target it. The Jews previously, the Catholics previously, and now the Muslims previously. It's always, you need to have an enemy to feel you are unique, you are better than others. And so you target
the scapegoat.
The scapegoat, absolutely.
Yes.
You need your scapegoat, otherwise you're not going to feel well. What is going to make you feel well? Now, you're right about 1,000 questions. You could have 10 podcasts on this cultural adaptability, and I will still have things and questions and answers. And we often speak of the cultural shock. Take anyone from somewhere, put someone somewhere else, you name it, and you get a cultural shock. What is more interesting, much more interesting, and much wider horizon is when you get a shock within your culture. As you often speak of you as a little girl not belonging, not adapting. As I have just finished writing co-authoring my second book, which is about belonging. When as a little girl you do not belong, that's a good sign. It's a good sign because you are going to question your own culture. This is fine because it opens your mind. It allows you to say, and what should I accept this? Why is it so important? Because it will open your horizons later. When you go elsewhere, you're not going to get such a cultural shock because you have already had your own within your culture. And so your cultural shock, you are going to do the same. I was shocked by my own culture, and so I questioned it, reversed it, did exactly as I pleased. No matter what my culture told me, I would have my own views, world views, cultural views. When I went abroad, I didn't have a cultural shock. I just watched, as I did with my own culture. I watched, and I often say what I am today is like any one of us is a bouquet. You decide, and I have heard you both speak of choice, decision. We decide what to put in our bouquet. If you are a free thinker, you say, as it's my case, I love red roses. Put plenty of red roses. I like those small, small white flowers. Put plenty to decorate my red roses. I create my own bouquet. Who I am today is unique, as we should all have the right to be.
Yes.
We just select who we are when we have, and here is the key word, no prejudice against my own culture, no prejudice against any other culture. Because if I listen, if I watch, I'm likely to understand what is behind this rule, regulation, tradition, belief, you name it. At the same time, I may decide to go against it. Now, when it comes to adaptability, the more you question your own culture and other cultures, and funny enough, the more you can adapt to other cultures because you tell yourself, you know, it makes sense in this culture. What about the other? Something else makes sense in the other culture. For example, and to finish with a beautiful anecdote, throughout literature, I used to read about. I read Western literature, I read Arab literature, Arabic literature, and then Western literature. And I found that in Western literature, women who wanted a divorce would go to using poison, to poison little by little the husband, because there was no way they could divorce. Divorce was forbidden
Yes.
in the church. So there's no way you could divorce a violent husband, even violent. According to the law, that was not enough. Even if he went away, according to the law, that was not enough. So women had to poison the husband to get rid of him. In my own culture, you know what you do when you want to get rid of your husband? It's so much simpler. Traditionally, because now you just go to the law and say, I don't love him, get divorced. That's it, done. But traditionally, when it was harder for women, not women, for women to get divorced, they would use some salt, just salt, because they would put a little bit more salt in the meal, and the husband would say, what are you doing? You're making me eat salt. What's that? That's horrible. Now, I'm telling you, Wallahi, wallah, swearing, next time you put salt, you are divorced. Done.
Yeah.
Next morning, you put slightly more salt. Now he has sworn, and according to religion, you have sworn, you better apply it. So next morning, she puts more salt. He says, done, get out, you are divorced.
Brilliant. Wow. So efficient.
Isn't it efficient? You don't have to risk being hanged for killing your husband. I put nothing. I put some little salt, and he is all the time so impulsive. He divorced me. It's done.
Yeah.
Who knows this about the Muslim culture?
Superb.
You
Superb.
need to be a Muslim to know it. And something else very important. All these people who speak of feminism, you know why feminism is a Western movement? Well, because of all that women were prevented from being, prevented from having. They couldn't go to university, they couldn't be engineers, they couldn't be doctors, they couldn't have a business, they couldn't inherit, they could. This doesn't exist in my own culture. You could do all this centuries ago. You could be a businesswoman, before Islam came and when Islam came in the 7th century. Why would you be a feminist? You didn't need to. Within marriage, outside marriage, but you could be a businesswoman. Our own prophet married a businesswoman. That's probably why, by the way, one of the reasons why a
Yeah.
man would marry a woman older than him. So you see that when we go inside cultures, aha, you better understand why this culture is made up like this. Why is there silence? In other cultures, there is no silence because there is this ego within the culture. There's something so magnificent about my culture. Well, in this case, you don't keep quiet. You will tell the world you belong to the most extraordinary culture.
Mm.
And I've had friends of mine saying, you know, what is so special about my culture? I would say nothing. What? I say nothing. Every single culture has got something special.
Mm.
Let me stop.
Mm.
Let me stop.
No, well, go on. But it's very, very exciting. I didn't know about the salt, but I do know that in Europe, and I don't know if Abby knows about this, but in Europe, mushrooms were the thing.
Yeah. Yes.
So, poisonous mushrooms. So the wife will very secretly collect these poisoned mushrooms. And
Yes.
recently, there's been quite a lot of research that men who find it very difficult to love, to express their love to their wives, many women have used poisonous mushrooms in very small quantities, and become sick and needs the care of the wife. And while the wife is caring for him, he realizes what love is, and before that he's been so independent and masculine, and didn't need any help with anything. But suddenly he's kind of reduced to a nitwit, and so suddenly he really needs his wife. And there have been a couple of films recently about this, which I love.
So talking about culture,
Yeah.
going back to culture, relating to what you're just talking about. So women, sometimes it's a cultural thing. So they're not actually killing them because they want to get out of, because the man's violent or anything like that. They could be killing, or because of religious reasons. Yeah, it could be because of religious reasons, but again, because of cultural reasons. Because like in a lot of African cultures, or even religious cultures, any religion, Christianity, Islam, any religion, divorce is seen as a taboo. So that is kind of like a cultural thing. So rather than going through the divorce, they might. So that's what I mean. The whole thing about culture is so complex, because you can put one description to it, like you'd say they're in a violent relationship, so they feel they have to kill. But that was thousands of years. Nobody in the West would do that now. I mean, they probably would, because of, like, for instance, in places like Africa, to be a single person is not a good thing. So your status comes down in society if you don't have a wedding ring. So therefore, to be able to maintain that status, so there could be different reasons, which could be cultural, because of maybe traditions of decades. So culture is very, very and cultural adaptability is very difficult. Obviously there are good things in all cultures, and there are bad things in all cultures. The problem is some people feel that their culture is the best, so they try to impose that culture on other cultures. And that's where the problem is. And like Mohiba said, I think it's about having the open mind to be able to look within at yourself and the culture, and find the positives in the other culture, and kind of mix and mesh, And I think this is what they've tried to do here. I would say it hasn't worked. because
Right.
human beings are complex and we have our egos, which don't allow us to kind of accept other cultures. So we're critical of each other, and which is not helpful. If we're critical of each other and each other's cultures, that doesn't really help, and it just causes resentment. So it's a difficult subject, and I don't know how we can talk about it in
Well,
15
I
minutes.
think the key word is the word Muhiba brought up, which is prejudice, isn't it? Because prejudice is something we have in our DNA.
That's it.
It comes with the package, doesn't it? And so
Yeah,
you
and that's
come out of your. Sorry, go ahead.
that's the problem. So this is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that it's the prejudice, which is the right word Mohiba has used, is the thing. But because we are tribal, so we stick to our own, and anything. And as you know, the body freezes or runs when something is different, when there's change. And so when you're in a culture that's different from yours, there's change. So your DNA is like working against that, and that is where the issue is.
Yes,
And
yes. I
there,
think.
there,
Yeah,
if I may just comment, and here is the role of education. Here is the role of integration. When you know your country is becoming a multi-ethnic society, you introduce these little ones from an early age to the other, whoever the other is. When a little one has got, he is white, she is black, the other is Asian, and they are all playing at the age of 4 or 5, no one is going to say, you look different. They don't know. These kids are playing, and what counts is the play, the game. And when you introduce them to one another at this early age, there's a great, great chance, if you get rid of any slur words or any prejudice at this early age, that they would grow up loving one another. I can
You're
assure
so
you
correct.
that it's at that stage. We had black friends when my little ones were too little to even understand. And I told you how I then took them to Britain and they were going to stay with a Jamaican family. So I just wanted, in case they would say, oh, you are not white or something. They never said a word about them not being white,
But you
because I
know
kept.
why, Mohiba? Because you have an open mind, which most people don't. So,
This is
like
what
you
I
said,
said
so
it.
the children all play together, which is great. But the problem is the influence of the adults.
This is what I
And
said,
so,
the educational system,
yeah.
the educational system above
But,
and beyond parents and parents'
but who's in the
prejudice.
education system? Who's at the
And we
top? It's
go
the
back to
adult.
that. There we go to the law, to the law.
Yeah.
My grandchildren are in Sweden, and at the school they go to, if one kid uses one insult, one prejudiced insult, immediately the parents are told off. Immediately. So it's the education, and above all, it's the law.
Correct. Yeah.
The law doesn't allow little ones,
Right.
let alone adults, to have prejudice, to look down on the other. A country where all these cultures come together needs to have this acceptance and the listening. Tell us about your religious festivals. And the little one would come and tell about the religious festivals, all exciting.
Yeah,
Tell
but
us about
how
your traditions.
the question is that how do you get people? I know in practice you're absolutely 100% correct, but the reality is that people have egos and don't listen to their bodies. And the reality is that people think that their culture is correct. So they're not thinking.
Correct.
So how do you solve that problem?
How do you solve it? It's our role now as individuals.
Yeah.
Speaking against prejudice is not easy. Speaking against looking down on the other is not easy. You are going at first to be the odd woman out, the odd voice out. But this is why some people are now celebrated as having spoken of independence when they were colonized, of human rights when they were looked down upon. These are the Mandelas, these are the Martin Luther Kings. These are the Rosa who didn't want to let her a white person take her seat. These are the great men and women who say no to their own culture because they know it's wrong. They know it discriminates and they say no. So it's at two levels. We start with the individual who can say, not in my name. How many people have walked, demonstrated, not in my name? Don't you include me in your massacres, in your
Generalizations.
prejudice. Yeah. And it goes all the way to the highest, to the legislators. You will also be remembered for having stood as a legislator and said no to a legislation that is keeping your own people out because they happen to be black or women or poor or handicapped or whatever.
Yeah, I think the word individuality is so important as well as prejudice, isn't it? Because, it always amazes me that people realize that they are unique.
Yes.
They just don't realize that we've got 8 billion unique individuals on this planet, and that we have 8 billion incredibly different body systems and spirits and so on. We're all so unique, but as Abi said, I think it's the tribal instinct that people want to be with others. They want to be approved. So look at a child, for example. They will be taught by their parents to seek approval. I remember when I was a child, my mother was so upset because I didn't want to play with the kids I was at school with. I didn't have anything in common with them. So I preferred to be on my own quite often. And she was so upset. She couldn't sleep. She would grow up to be this weirdo, and we rowed about it all the time because I just didn't have anything in common with them. And I didn't want to spend my time doing that, with them. So I think, as Muhiba says, I think it's about your personal courage to stick to your freedom, to stick to your unique perspective, and to acknowledge that your body works in a way that no other body works. In Japan, it's really strange because my doctor constantly is apologizing to me because they do not have my body constellation in their database. So he can't find anything to compare my blood, my bodily reactions to, because there's nobody like me in the Japanese database, because I'm twice as tall, twice as big, and a female. So he's constantly apologizing. And I kind of feel rather glad about it, because I realize that I am unique. I'm different to everybody else in Japan. And so I say, it's okay. I don't mind, I might die tomorrow, but who cares? I've got my individuality, but people are
unfortunately that's not the way, because we're going more as a collective, and I think that makes it, in terms of the world, we're going more as a collective where it's not about the individual and it's more about the collective. So who the majority, put it that way. So being an individual is a struggle. And I don't know. I don't know if you watch The Sound of Music, where it goes, how do you solve the problem? Like Maria, how do you solve this problem? It's so complex in terms of culture, because like Mohiba said, even within cultures, because, okay, my parents were both Nigerian, but they were from different cultures. And that was even a struggle. So different language, in terms of, okay, they were both Christians, but different branches of Christianity, which again has its own things to come with it. So, and even so when you bring, say, an African to Europe, that's a huge big culture. Remove the color, just the culture alone. And that is because an African coming here would kind of feel, oh, I don't like that culture. I don't like the Western culture, because A, B, C, and D. And I think this, da, 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 da. So they're already opposed. And then the other person, and then when there's a disagreement, they might think it's a color thing. So already there's a miscommunication. Oh, you don't like me because of my color. No, but maybe they don't like you because of your culture. So it gets all muddled. So it's all, like you said, it has to be individual. Whereas individuals, we have to recognize what's within, what's outside, the prejudice, break down the prejudice, and then bring it all together. But in our world today, I'm sorry if I'm being negative. I'm not usually negative. I'm a skeptic. But because I think we're all the expectations and we're all trying to live as a collective, it is hard, but you have to be individual first before you can be collective. But we're going the other way around.
If I may comment, the whole story is about difference. You were saying it may not be your color, it may be your culture. Actually, it's just your difference. It could be just your name.
Yeah.
Your name is enough to distinguish you totally from someone else. But to go back to difference, as long as we see ourselves as different, but on practically the same level, horizontal.
That's the key, isn't it?
That's the key.
That
If
is
we
the
are
key.
horizontally different, we are fine. But when we see ourselves
Which is
vertically
natural.
different,
that's the natural.
The natural is the horizontal
because of the
difference.
ego.
But here,
The
because of
ego
history,
says that mine is better than yours.
the ego can be individual and can become collective, and it become tribal, and then it become national. And so if I take the case of my friend, former friend, he passed away, unfortunately, after becoming one of the best dermatologists in the United States, Black African, Black American, who said, I need to focus, and he wrote a beautiful book about Black American skin, because that was no interest for any doctor then. And so he thought, I tell you what, if we Black Americans do not get concerned with what happens to the black skin and all the problems that affect the black skin, white doctors are not going to do it.
Of course,
and he got it because of that classification. Who cares about black skin in the United States compared to who cares about white skin? And he wrote a beautiful book where he really explained that black people in the United States have got a different, completely different complexion, different complexity of the skin. And that is what I mean by prejudice. This topic, this question should have been taken care of long before he thought of focusing on black skin. It
But
should have concerned
that is
everyone.
only natural. Just like when you're in Africa with black people, they will not think about white skin.
Because whites are a minority.
About white skin. So
Ebi,
what I'm saying is that you got to my point that it's always tribal. And so when we're putting a population that's different from ours, we might find some prejudice on both sides. It's not on one side. So the other person might be prejudiced that, oh, I don't know, this is different. And you are also prejudiced, oh, they're saying this against me because I'm different. So there's it's such a complex topic, I think, culture. And like Linden said, it's about the embodiment of the individual, listening like to the inside, to your body, what it's feeling, what's right, what's wrong. It's not about culture, but because we're tribal, that is difficult to break. So how do you break that? And Mohiba has given examples of education, but unfortunately, emotions are strong.
Actually,
I think
that's what he did. Yeah, sorry. Just said that this is why he looked into his body. This doctor looked into his body, his own skin, that told him, what these white doctors are telling you is all wrong. It's based on white data. It's based on white people's data.
Yes.
So you create your own data, which I must say, it's not like having a few black people in the United States. It's a huge minority, and it is a huge minority that built the country. There should have been more concerned with these people who gave so much, so much.
I think that's a simplification of the problems there, because everybody, you can't say, again, you see the cultural thing, you can't say one person, one race built a whole big nation like that. It's
I
such
said,
a
I
huge
gave
country.
so much.
You can't
I
say,
said,
so different cultures built. So the
no, I didn't say they built it. I said, gave so much.
Contribution.
In pain, contributed in pain, in suffering, and he gave so much. I'm very, very cautious with what I say. Gave so much. No one can say anything against this. They did give
it
so
is,
much.
I think culture is complex, and like you said earlier, it's an individual. It's for us to grow individually to be able to have the collective. We can't really blame, because I think all cultures have made mistakes, and all cultures are faulty in the way things have gone. And the correction is for us as individuals to understand what's inside and not feel that our culture is correct or that culture is to blame, because it's all individual. But as a collective, yeah, maybe one culture might blame more than the other. I don't know, but it is. I find it complex. And when I
Which
watch
is incredibly complex. And I
talk to
think
me.
media hype is a big problem with all this.
Yeah,
because
that is a big problem. It's not
we
really.
are constantly being fed media hype about culture and about race and about all manner of things. And that's why I refuse to get involved. I'm very much on the edges of all this media hype, because it's completely distracting from your individuality, from
And
your
unreal.
own background, and totally unreal. Yes. So I really steer clear of that. And I always, even in Japan, when there are problems culturally, sometimes, for me, and in other countries I've lived, I always come back to the idea I put on my video. The human body is the first culture. That is where we start. That's our birth. That's our ecology, if you like, our ecosphere. That's where we come from. And then the limited mind of, it's only the first time I've mentioned that today. That's good, isn't it? I've been trying to hold back.
Good God.
Then the limited mind kicks in and says, oh, but she's bigger than me and he's smellier than me, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So
the limited mind sees difference where we should see common. We should work on what's common. That's why, and I know we talked about diversity at the beginning. I don't like the word, because your limited mind goes to difference. When you hear the word diversity, you're just looking for the difference. But we should be looking for what we have in common, and that will bring us together. If we start to look for difference, because we're tribal in our DNA, we immediately start with the prejudice and the other things that come along with difference.
That's my idea about the bouquet, where
I love that. I actually wrote it down.
Yes, we refuse prejudice. We refuse to be told what to think of the other. We have the other in front of us with all the beauty, all the diversity, which means, something new I'm going to learn, something I didn't know before. And you collect your bouquet, and it's, in any case, original and unique, something that is not to exist in anyone else. Each one of us is a unique bouquet, because it's a collection of different experiences, thoughts, feelings, emotions. And that is the bouquet who we are, whom we choose to be, And that is the difference. The freedom to create your own bouquet. That is in your hands.
Yes. But how do we encourage people to do this? This is my big mission, because as Eddie
Embodiment.
said, yes, well, that's my answer to everything.
And my answer is your other one. That is when you refuse limited mind. Because limited mind is see contradiction, see double standards, and accept them and say, oh, my boss says this, my mom says this, my leader says this. You accept all these totally contradictory narratives, and you accept them. This is the limited mind.
Because it's safe. Or you feel it's safe. So
you think it's safe, and it's the most dangerous, because you are harming others. You are unfair to others. You accept what you are told, although you know facts contradict this totally. Or your emotions tell you this. You have a little one who is black and you are white, and he's so cute. But you say, no, he can't be cute. My mom says these people are, no, different in the sense they can't be us. You are
but that's
refusing your own
minority
emotions.
of people, I find.
Sorry?
I find that most people are not like that. Like the sentence you just said. Most people are not like that. But like you said, with the media hype, it's blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
When I walk outside, I go to places, I don't find that experience. Because most people are too concerned about their issues anyway. So again, it's the media hype, and maybe that's a starting point where we have to put more pressure on our media to be more inclusive, not by ticking boxes, but by understanding that this sort of rhetoric or this sort of language doesn't help the general masses, because we have a different perception. Because if I listen to the media, I would be scared to go out of my place. I know the reality is not that way because I experience it. So I know that's not the reality. Because
I totally agree. I totally agree. At least we have, for once, the three of us agreeing. Now, you said something. Most people are not like this, and I entirely agree. You see millions of people sometimes marching against their own government, which continues the same policy, which means that most people, the people, are not like this. Unfortunately, those who are like this are those who hold power and hold to power and they have no interest in letting go. And so they propagate all these differences and the famous divide and rule. You have all your power when you manage to divide people according to differences, to colors, to cultures, to whatever. These people shouldn't have the right to reign over our own thinking, our own emotions, our own bodies. That is for sure.
And I think that's why, Muhibav, the arts world is so different, isn't it? Because writers and musicians and painters and so on, they have the freedom.
They come together
to express themselves. Yeah. And they don't get involved. They just are absolutely dedicated to their art. And I feel we need many more artistic people, truly artistic people in the world, because art is truth, because it comes from people's hearts usually, and it fills the world with beautiful things, so
you said it. Art is truth. Art is freedom. These people, you can't put them in cages. You can't put them in prison. They would fly out of prison mentally, artistically. So these people have one thing in common. They tell truth because they are free thinkers. All. Any artist is a free thinker.
Art, because music is one thing that brings people together. I just hear music, different cultures. I like different cultural music, and now I'm going to learn how to dance Bhangra, which is
Oh,
like I'm not sure pronouncing it right, but I met this group, and so it's from Indian, the Indian Asian, and the drumming is so beautiful, and the way they dance with a lot of energy. So two things: I'll enjoy the music, and I'll also get the exercise. So it's really great.
so that's a really lovely resolution, isn't it, for all this cultural stuff? Really, I feel like many things, many topics that have really risen to the surface of life in the last 300 years, that they become exaggerated, they become acute and intensive, that we are drawn into all that. We're drawn into cultural differences, we're drawn into, and so my attitude is stay away from the flames. The flames will burn you, but just step back and you'll still be warm. But you have objectivity, you have some perspective. So people think I'm very much on the edge of things, but it's a kind of, that's my culture, because that's where the freedom is. Staying away from all of these things gives me the freedom to be my unique self.
Only again, the body, not the body, the mind likes to know these things, and I think we form habits of wanting to always, and that's why the news is always negative, because that's the human DNA, isn't it? They're so excited. If the news is about nice and happy things, nobody's going to be watching.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's really strange, isn't it? The downfall of others seems to be a great entertainment.
Linden, I love your metaphor about keep away from the flames so that you don't get burnt, but you keep warm. And sometimes there is less and less space since we are all keeping away. So I don't mind putting some water on the flames so that we can get closer and have more space and be warm without being burnt. Each one of us, it's our role to put some little water on these flames so that they don't go wild and consume those who are too close and who haven't got space to go back. I love your metaphor.
Sounds good. Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad we brought all of the confusion of this topic, which people write whole theses about. And I know several teachers, university teachers, who teach nothing but culture. And I often think,
huge.
This is very strange to me, really, that and they don't ever include anything about the body or the spirit. Culture just becomes this objective kind of antique almost that they spend the whole time describing. It's nothing to do with human life to me. And there, where we all kind of find ourselves in commonality, we come back to the idea that we are unique. And isn't it miraculous that the three of us can be here and talk about these things so beautifully?
Absolutely. Thank you for organizing it. Thank you for making it possible.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This is what I love about being able to really just accept. We are so intolerant. We always have to. Human nature is so intolerant nowadays, and I feel that tolerance is my middle name, because that's been my spiritual pathway, really.
That's another topic. Tolerance. We walked over with tolerance.
Oh, fantastic. So what are we going to talk about next week? What's the next progression from this? Any ideas? You need time.
Maybe we can think about that.
Yeah. Fine.
If tolerance is not a repeat of today, we can go to tolerance.
I think tolerance is a fantastic topic.
Why wouldn't we go there? It
Shall we
might
go
be
there?
a follow-up. I
We can
think
go
so, because
there,
we've
yeah.
still got things to say.
Yeah.
Tolerance, yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, because tolerance would be, well, I don't know. It can be positive, it can be negative.
It
Well,
can't be.
tolerance, in the word of tolerance, yeah, it's a
Yes,
great
yes,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, tolerance is the
Coexistence.
word, yeah.
It's rather coexistence is a neutral word. Coexist.
Yes.
And
Right.
a lot of coexistence scholars don't use tolerance. They use coexistence. Yeah, you're right.
Coexistence, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Shall we do it? Yeah. I
I would
think it
love to.
might be really good. Um, what tolerance means to me is very different to what it means to you, and that goes for all of us, really.
That is, yeah. So maybe a definition.
So let's
start.
go for tolerance.
Yeah.
Let's go for
So we're-
tolerance then.
We're all
So that
coming
we need
from
to define it.
yes.
We need to define it.
Let's start off with a definition unique to us. Because I think if we
Absolutely.
talk about that, it will bring our uniqueness to the fore.
Yes,
And people will
absolutely.
see, that if we really embrace our uniqueness and our embodiment and so on, then we really truly can be tolerant, because
Yes.
without being insincere, without being
Absolutely.
untruthful to ourselves, which to me is the most important thing of all.
And
Being
allow
honest
the
with yourself.
others. When you are tolerant, you allow yourself to be yourself and allow the other to be themselves.
Yes.
I mean, allow, okay, allow, it looks like you're giving permission. I think
Yes,
when you
I give myself permission. I started with myself. I am a linguist, so don't fix with me, Abby.
I think
I allowed myself first. So you allow yourself to be yourself. So allow the others to be themselves. You can use whatever you let myself, ask myself, you use the same word, it's equivalent and fair.
If you any NLP, I've done lots of NLP in my life, then allow is an extremely neutral word. It doesn't have any doing in it.
No.
I'm always looking for non-doing words. So in my meditation work, that's a word I use a lot. Allow your eyelids to float down. It's a very, very powerful and neutral word, and there are quite a lot like it, which I use a lot.
We sometimes give permission. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. It's lovely. It's so sweet. It's so tender. Don't blame yourself. We do make mistakes, so give yourself permission to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You can move on.
So it allows others, not that you allow others.
No.
It allows others to be themselves, as opposed to you allow others to be themselves.
And others allow you. It's reciprocity that makes it so beautiful.
It allows you to be yourself.
Of course. But you also allow the other.
Sorry, again, that's where
let the other.
The subconscious mind
let yourself be yourself. Let the others be themselves. The others are expected to do the same. Any reciprocity has a lot of respect in it, a lot of respect for yourself and the other. So let us all be tolerant.
Yes, I agree, but I do think also that people are so trapped in many ways in their script, in their situation, and so on, that they don't have the wherewithal to actually use that word, allow, or to give permission. They're not embodied. They're not in their root at all. They're really not connected. And so I think a lot of people lack the confidence to even notice that you're being yourself, and they're not being themselves. This is the kind of conflict, I think, that a lot of people
there is conflict in the mind.
And
they're not
together.
present. They're
just
not present.
Dance together. And each one dances to the tune, to the music, the way you like. Sometimes you go and you find people dancing, they don't look the same when they're dancing. The dancing is not the same. They are still dancing together.
Well, this goes back to the behavior is not the person, doesn't it? Which
Okay, so how we
weeks ago.
settled now? Tolerance.
Tolerance. Okay. Tolerance. Wonderful. Okay. Well, thanks so much of you. It's been great.
Thank you,
as
Linden.
always.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you,
Thank
our
you.
audience.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm so sorry it was a bit rocky at the beginning, but it wasn't me, honestly. It was StreamYard. It seems to have settled down now. I don't know what was happening with links.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, so Abby and Dr. Muibeth, thanks so much, and we'll see you again next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Have a
great
lovely
weekend.
week.
Yeah, I'll be
Bye.
in touch.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Wonderful. So, yes, we really managed to resolve this question of culture. It is a very complex topic. But it really does point us in that direction of, knowing ourselves, of embodying ourselves, and having the courage to be ourselves, which many people do not have, it seems. So, if you'd like to continue with our interesting dialogue, then join us again next week, same time, same place. And if you'd like to come in the studio and join us, we'd be delighted. So please use the link and apply, come and be in the studio with us. It would be lovely. And yes, in the meantime, I look forward to the coming week. We're going to be talking about ethics in event 9. And we have a wonderful guest, a medical doctor who is a really good friend of mine, who really is an expert on ethics, Annika Sorensen, who will be with us on Wednesday. And I'll be following up with other articles and posts and so on. Do join us, do keep in touch with what we're doing. And thank you so much for joining us today. Please leave your comments if you have any. Abby Sheila gave us lots of comments, but I can't see any others. So I will, she very kindly has put some of those so the audience members can see. Thank you, Abby, for that. That's great. Okay, so thanks so much and see you next week. Thank you very much. This is Linden Thorp, and this is Lodestone Q&A. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.